for an update on our racial equity plan, because that is one step forward on our ongoing attempt to tell give a more comprehensive view of our city's history. I'm going to call upon Ms. Freeman.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor Fry, members of council, Ms. Dooley, Mr. Broody, Mr. Whitley. I appreciate this opportunity to present this monthly update tonight. We will be posting this update on the city's website under racial equity, which now has a home on our website. As a reminder, this is a consolidated report of City Council's response and recovery plan. It's organized into primary goals, goals A through E. And so tonight, I'll just remind you of the goals and the specific updates since our last update, which was, I think it was City Council's last meeting in September the 22nd. So goal A is to ensure that the safety of the demonstrators and the public remains a top priority. The Fredericksburg Police Department has reported that on the evening of September the 24th, approximately 65 demonstrators gathered at Hercamp Park and marched throughout the downtown. This did begin as a lawful demonstration utilizing the sidewalks throughout downtown, and then it turned unlawful later into the evening as they took over the streets to include walking the wrong way on one-way streets in downtown. Our police officers followed the established enforcement plan by warning violators using the electronic PA system several times before issuing summons. They did issue summons for pedestrian in the roadway violations. Ultimately, there were 8 summons that were issued for pedestrians in the roadway. That means that they failed to leave the roadway after being warned. There was 1 assault arrest, excuse me, a citizen smacked a phone from one of the demonstrators' hands, and there was 1 outstanding traffic summons that was served on one of the demonstrators, and that was in an unrelated incident. Goal B, as a reminder, it really focuses on the city's communications plan, and this is developed in cooperation with stakeholders like the public, business, city staff, and council. As the recent update, the communications team does continue to meet semi-regularly, and we do have continued our work with our consultant on a scaled-down contract. We have developed messaging around the slave auction block, and we do continue the Ask the Mayor segment every other week. Goal C is to assess law enforcement's response to demonstrations and identify criminal justice reform proposals. So the most recent activity includes, I think our police department has compiled a video montage of some of the demonstration activities and presented this video in a debriefing to City Council. And this occurred generally between September the 17th, I think the 21st, the 22nd, and then the last briefing took place on October the 1st. Our police department, along with their partners from Stafford and Spotsylvania, have participated in joint training. And this does include the incident command systems of each of those components. And so that is a system that is used to coordinate a response to major incidents. And that could include the partnering of outside agencies to a major incident. It could include incidents that last more than 2 hours involving a supervisor and 2 or more officers from the police department. And so what our police department really did during that training was focus on the major facets of the response from the demonstrations that took place in our community from May the 31st to June the 2nd. And they took the opportunity to debrief their partners for the purposes of lessons learned and information sharing. And I understand that they felt that that was a productive session. In addition to that, our command staff, which includes the chief and the police department captains, have met with PERF on October the 24th to review the preliminary report. And this was the report for the independent audit of the city's response to the demonstrations that took place during May 31st through June the 2nd. PERF did request some additional information, and that information is currently being compiled, and they expect to be able to submit that back to PERF this week. And lastly, as of yesterday, the General Assembly is still in special session. And so we don't have a final report out for you on those activities, but we'll continue to track and monitor that and be sure to bring that back to you once that special session has completed. On to goal D, which is community engagement. I do want to mention certainly a reoccurring theme that I hear both from our elected leadership and city leadership and other city staff. We recognize that City Council has made a commitment to the continued community outreach and dialogue. And I feel like this is a very important point to continue to reiterate to the community. And we're very fortunate to have a lot of our residents and community stakeholders express an interest to provide input. I think community engagement is one of the most special parts of government. And we certainly embrace that. So with that in mind, we also recognize that we're in the midst of really a moment where similar conversations are occurring across our region, across the state of Virginia, across the nation, and really there are global conversations following the same theme. We certainly recognize that our residents and our community leaders have started to have some of these hard conversations, and that the city and our activities were a part of the broader conversation taking place in our community. And we want to be a positive influence in that process. So with those things in mind, we tried to structure continued community engagement in such a manner as to make sure that we're creating safe places to provide feedback. One of the pieces I think is so interesting that I continue to hear from residents is that these conversations aren't easy. And it's the same piece of advice and note that I hear from national resources that work in this space. And that is, in order to make progress, you have to commit to the hard work of difficult conversations, uncomfortable conversations sometimes. But at the end of the day, I think it's our hard work that has the potential to impact our community in really positive ways, especially if we approach it constructively with the goal to support and represent and protect all of our residents. This, I think, will really yield the potential for all of our hard work to positively enhance the city's policies, our programs, our service delivery, in order to achieve better community outcomes, and especially those outcomes related to City Council's future desired states. And that's really the goal of this component of the response and recovery plan. So we do have upcoming opportunities for the public to provide input to the city. Our boards will be offered a chance to provide input this week. The public survey will be our primary tool It's available in written form as an online tool, and there are a limited number of virtual sessions available to ensure equity and access for those that prefer or for those that have accommodation requirements that allow for oral feedback. More information on this is available on the city's website. The link to the survey and to the virtual sessions will be sent directly to those participants who've already expressed an interest and registered on our website. Our registration is open for both the survey in written form as well as the special accommodation and virtual sessions. Those virtual sessions do have a strong encouragement for resident participation. And our target dates for those sessions are October the 28th from 7 p.m. to 8:15 p.m., October the 29th during the lunch hour at 12:30 to 1:45, November the 9th from 5:30 to 6:45, and November the 10th from 6 p.m. to 7:15. So a variety of evening and day times. And I'm happy to report that we've had already 45 people who've expressed an interest to participate. And that number really is from earlier this morning, and we continue to get interest throughout the day. This public feedback is going to be anonymous. The International Coalition of Sites of Conscience will host, collect, analyze the feedback for us. The participants will be able to identify through the registration process and the feedback process if they're residents of the city, 22401, if they are a business owner, employee affiliated with the business, if they're affiliated with a major organization that has a presence in the city, like a private school, a major institution like the college or university. And we did this so that the findings could be analyzed and understood from the perspective of the multiple stakeholders that have an interest in the city. We can also collect and analyze that feedback from a single perspective, as if we wanted to analyze the perspective of residents or the perspective of businesses. We can isolate those findings. ICIC will present the findings in a session that will be available to the public and broadcast to the public. We're looking at the first week in December for that. Our target date for that is December the 4th, but that hasn't been finalized. But if you'd like to save the date and kind of make that note on your calendar. And then they will prepare a written report for council's consideration during this December retreat. So that was a lot that I threw at you. I want to summarize by saying that the information is available on the city's website. For the public, it's www.fredericksburgva.gov. There is a link to it on the city's main webpage under the scrolling banner if you click on public input. You can also find it under the Get Involved tab by clicking on Community tab first, Get Involved, then Active Engagement Projects, and you will be able to access the link for the survey under the Racial Equity bullet. And lastly, and I appreciate we've touched on some of the updates to our current projects, but Goal E of this plan is to address racial inequity through strategic planning and goal settings. And that does include the work that we've already committed to doing in telling a more complete history and story of Fredericksburg. So I'm pleased to echo the sentiments of the Vice Mayor and the Mayor from earlier. As prescribed in the action plan to City Council on November the 5th of last year, the bronze medallion, the wayside panel has been installed. The panel does highlight aspects of the site's history. It describes a little bit about the process in which the city is engaged. It's not intended to be comprehensive. but it is intended to ensure that the site remains visible, that the information is readily available to the public, and our efforts to develop the permanent interpretation certainly continue. The slave auction block has been relocated to FAM. It was relocated on October the 5th, right after the unveiling of the Wall of History at the Fred Nat Stadium. So that was quite an exciting week. And FAM will continue to work on the temporary exhibit. Their plans for the permanent interpretation of that will consider and coincide with the city's interpretation for the corner of Charles and William. And lastly, we have finalized the text for the wayside panels that commemorate DeBaptiste at French John's Wharf, the Freedom Riders, and the Green Book. So those have been finalized. They are being, I think they've been sent to the fabricator, I guess is what you call that. And those will be fabricated over the next 2 weeks. They'll be shipped back to us. It takes about a week. So we expect that those permanent wayfinding panels will be in the city likely before the end of November. And we have already installed the permanent bases. So as soon as we receive those, we'll be able to insert those and install them relatively quickly after receipt. Madam Mayor, that concludes my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions or offer any other comment.
Vice Mayor Fry.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. The Green Book, French John's Wharf, and the Freedom Riders, all in one conversation, one paragraph. This is amazing. What's happening here in the city of Fredericksburg. Wow. Yeah, can I say it again? I'll say wow. I wish we were in the same room together because this is amazing for real. And I just want to just say how happy I am of what's happening here in the city, and really the fact that I would say, if you look around the world and you look at what was happening earlier this year in the world, and what everybody's trying to accomplish in their own locality, we've been doing it here before, and this is an example of what work looks like. It doesn't happen overnight, and you got to have dedicated folks. So on this screen here, now we all on the screen, but on this screen, what you see is dedication, and it's really huge. It's been a lot of work, and there's a lot of work behind the scenes that the public doesn't see, but it's been a lot of work, and I just want to say that I'm very excited about everything that's happening. I mean, so many conversations, even me and Mr. Massey, I feel like our first coffee meeting it feels like 4 years ago. I could be wrong, but it's been a while about the DeBaptiste family, and French John's Wharf and all of that. So to see everything, lining up now, the Freedom Riders, who would have known that the first stop for the Freedom Riders happened at our local firehouse at the same location on Princess Anne Street. So it's just showing how much more history is here in Fredericksburg. So it's just amazing, and to the council, everybody here is wow. Look at what we're doing. So it's real cool just to see it unfolding right here, and we're living in a moment. So I don't know what this will look like in 10 years looking back, but this is huge. So that's all. I think I'm at 7 cents, Mayor Greenlaw. I got 3 more cents for a dime for the night.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I would say this is not just what work looks like. This is what a plan looks like. And we thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, if I might, I would be remiss if I didn't end my comments tonight by saying that I have the great honor and privilege of being able to report to you on this, but it certainly is not my work alone. And I can't reiterate enough the tireless dedication that the City of Fredericksburg staff have applied to this. It certainly is very sensitive work. They've brought a level of sensitivity to the work that's done behind the scenes and a great deal of thought and consideration from everything from watering the flowers that were spontaneously planted to caring for them. Sonia Cantu and her dedicated efforts in supporting the communications plan and the public engagement process. Kate Schwartz and her tireless efforts with working with our boards and commissions and our partners, Victoria and Matthews, the same, to do the wayfinding panels. Mike Craig and Susanna Ben, who you'll see tonight, who continue to support those efforts, and Diane Bears. I could name many. I have the privilege of being the one that gets to report to you, but it's really as a result of their tireless dedication. So I appreciate the opportunity to present this, and thank you for the chance to work on it.
Well, thank you, and thank all of the city staff. Yes, we realize how dedicated you are to this plan for racial equity, and it's extraordinary work. Thank you very much.